I want to ask you something about, it just came to mind, about Ford's Theater, since you mentioned it. They changed the museum downstairs. And I see it as, what it is now, it seems a museum of the Civil War, and not of the site, which is Ford's Theater and the assassination.
Yeah.
And most of the artifacts that they have are shoved into one area, small, and they don't have any room to breathe, to me. And then the rest of it is about Washington and the war, which is okay, but it seems to take one away from the site.
Yes, I would say amen to what you say. Now, when they opened the Ford Theater, the decision was made prior to the assassination of President Kennedy to take the Ford Theater back to its appearance as of that night, that moment in history that makes the Ford Theater so significant. And because of the trial, because of the importance of it, the Park Service and the collection, such as by one of your people who started Osborne Oldroyd's collection. But then comes the assassination of President Lincoln. And I like to say when they opened the Ford Theater down in the basement, they took these artifacts associated with the assassination, which makes the Ford Theater important.
It's the door that
and they had them in a space less than what you folks are sitting in, the ones I'm sitting in here. I would say they put it in a closet. Now people, whether they're Van Weinberg, whether the Surratt Society, forced the Park Service in 1982 to put this collection of why the Ford Theater is nationally significant, internationally significant. And they brought all those wonderful artifacts out. And you go in and you were immersed in the story of what happened.
And the artifacts had room to breathe as well.
Read and feel it. Now it's back in the closet again. And I don't think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that, because I feel the same.
I was very disappointed in what happened.
Are you worried about Peterson House across the street?
I'm worried too when it reopens.
Oh.
Because...
Have you seen the plans for that yet?
I've not seen the plans. Because Lincoln is you're diluting the story of why the Ford Theater is one of the most important sites in the country.
Well, we're talking about battlefield preservation, really, and this is a battlefield. There was a shot fired in anger. Commander-in-Chief goes down. What about battlefields in general? How is the preservation of those going in your eyes, and what do you think the future is going to be?
Now, thanks to developers, the preservation of the land on which these events taken place have received a big shot in the arm. Because particularly the Civil War major battles were fought along places in which our economic development is going to occur. In the East, it is from Philadelphia to Petersburg. In Georgia, started at Chattanooga and to Atlanta and to the sea. Now, these areas, particularly between Atlanta and Washington, were being gobbled up by suburbia. And people realized that soon there's not going to be any open space. And they have joined preservationists. They have joined people history and interested in the history of our country, and give you a much louder voice. They've expanded our audience, because otherwise they don't plan very well for an infrastructure of highways, and the highways crowd up, and that makes a big, it gets a lot of supporters when you're driving out on 66 and you're stuck in a long traffic jam. So yes, I think the preservation of these key battlefields is now in a critical moment to save critical parts that are not preserved before they're paved over.
Do you think that's going to take place?
I think right now we're doing quite well. The Civil War Trust and other groups and allied agencies are doing quite well, but how long that will last?
Yeah, some of it is going to be the support of the public.
Yes, you've got to have public support.
Yeah, must be that. Well, I'm going to switch gears here a great deal and go back to something that was actually in receding tide. I wanted to ask you about the Confederate command structure. Do you think it failed in the war effort? Petersburg in particular, when Lee and Jeff Davis were in close proximity and had their issues. What do you think about the command structure in general for the Confederacy?
The command structure, if you could clone a number of Lees, you might fare a little better, but you can't do that. So Lee becomes, as you move through the war and disillusionment comes out, the Army of Northern Virginia becomes more instrument of fighting for General Lee, particularly as General Sherman marches through the Carolinas and goes wherever he wants to do, and and the people get letters from home. Why can't you do something about what's happening down here? With everything concentrated in the Richmond area, Sherman going where we want him, where he wants to go. Don't you owe something to your family? As Sherman carries out his economic warfare, and I think yes, I think the Confederacy is coming to a position that they're have running out of manpower, they're running out of everything, and Davis might have been a much better president, not in a crisis. I think what's so important is on Lincoln, on taking very complex subjects and putting them into a very meaningful manner. For instance, you can recite the Gettysburg Address in about 3 minutes. And he took and changed the whole focus of the war from the preservation of the Union to a much higher plane, does it? And you could also argue that brevity is good. Lincoln is a master at words, and a masterpiece is his our shortest inaugural address is Mr. Lincoln's, and his second inaugural. The two worst inaugural addresses, and I'm not going to be picking on anybody, are the two longest. William Henry Harrison went 69 minutes, and Bill Clinton who eclipsed him in 1997.
Well, we in Abraham Lincoln Bookshop know that there's no Bill Clinton bookshop or Jeff Davis bookshop
No,
either.
and Davis cannot put it in his thoughts into meaningful feelings that inspired people then, and you can talk about inspired people in the third world even today.
Do you think that Davis was even weaker when Pemberton came into the fold of Petersburg? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Then with Lee.
Yes.
Yeah. That's brevity. Shelby Foote said, we're just bouncing around here, but Shelby Foote said that there were two geniuses he felt in the war, Abraham Lincoln and Nathan Bedford Forrest. Do you agree? At least with one of them?
I agree with one of them. Now, of course, Shelby Foote tells the story the other way. He ran in Forrest's son was very productive because there are lots of Forrest descendants, because he's only one person can defend from Forrest, and that's his son. But there are lots of Forrests, and Shelby Foote says he runs into one of Forrest's descendants, and she will say to Shelby Foote, I think you got it wrong. There's only one genius in the Civil War, and it's not Mr. Lincoln. Forrest is a good soldier. He's a modern soldier. He's a ruthless soldier. He went to school for same amount of time that Lincoln went to school, 6 months. But Forrest really, he could not put his words into writing. And that's the only way you have to measure on Forrest. He becomes popular because of his colloquial, and there's very few things that he actually ever wrote. The one they always quote is an endorsement. I done told, T-O-L-E, you, God damn it, no, K-N-O-W. It's colorful, but it isn't a transcendental message.
Of course, you wouldn't want to meet him in an alley.
Yes.
Is there someone else besides Lincoln that you'd say in the war was a genius in some fashion?
He's so overriding. It's hard to say.
Well,
They're near geniuses, but I would not use genius for any of the other.